Welcome to the Wooper Club League Season 13, Week 3 Power Rankings. This one was a doozy with some awesome matches. I am your host, as always, IllLogic, coach of the Buffalo Bouffalant, and as always, I'm joined by SteveChuck, coach of the Waterdeep Wobbuffets.
Hey, everybody.
Before we get into those matches, you already know there were some trades and transactions that went down. Let's talk about them right here, right now. Boom! Huge trade here. The Route 1 Burbs, who just acquired low kicks for a very small amount last week, gets a pretty penny here. 16 Woot Bucks from the Noctels in exchange for low kicks. Steve, I guess this is what happens when you fail to set your alarm for the auction and you miss out on the low kicks, but you still want it desperately anyways. What a big move. Talk about how the Burbs are a traitor to the cause. How dare he give my opponent such a good mon.
Yeah, smart bidding from the Burbs there in the auction. Saw low kicks going for what was a steal. Had the funds and the ability to take it onto their team. They also didn't have and still don't have an additional tier 2, so we're easy to hold on to it. And then, it's a good mon. They can thread it for a week and then sell it back. A little bit of note is, although they bid 4 and are getting 16 back, do keep in mind that they did have to pay the signing fee. So 6 of these Woot Bucks are, of course, going towards the signing fee that the Burbs did pay and the Noctowls no longer have to pay. But it's still a fantastic profit for the Burbs, picking up a good chunk of money that can hopefully help them in some of these future auctions, if money is good for that, at least.
And at the very least, too, they did already spend a pretty penny for that Torkoal at the beginning of the year, so doing some smart wheeling and dealing here to make up for that. This was not the only transaction. We have the Steamrollers and Corviknight engaging in a little bit of play here, too. An old favorite of the Steamrollers, Frostlass, for 7 Woot Bucks over to the Corviknight. They actually play this week as well, so this was kind of an interesting trade to do right before that happened. But Steamrollers getting a familiar face back. What do you think?
Yeah, getting the familiar face. I know the Corviknight had announced that they were interested in trading it and, were receiving bids. They were very active and, telling people, hey, this so-and-so's offering so much, so-and-so's offering so much, trying to get the most money out of it as they could. And they ended up getting into a little bit of a bidding war where the Steamrollers ended up agreeing to 7. So pretty big trade. Steamrollers getting them on the comfortable with. Corviknight, instead of dropping Frostlass for, I believe, the tier 4 signing discount, instead get a couple extra Woot Bucks to spend at these auctions. So both teams walk away pretty happy with this.
And definitely of note too of this is a pretty nice speed tier there at 110. Noticing that in a lot of these auctions it is tough to get those fast mons. Chad getting something for potentially a good price. We'll kind of see what's happened with the auctions. Right now, actually, what happened with the Week 3 auctions? Well, first off, the Route 1 Burbs continue their dominance over the auction, grabbing another mon. It's the Mellow Edda for 9, replacing their other normal type to Dunsparce. Music City Mudkips, Wooper Troopers, and Seattle Steamrollers all sitting out this time around, which is, well, that's only the beginning, so we'll see what else is up there. Boulder is getting the Tier 3 Venomoth for a single Woot Buck, and Mismagius down there. A little bit of a fight there for the Mismagius, the Tier 4 for 4. Corviknight Clobber's back on the board after a week off too. Sylvia on the Tier 3 for 3. That is a nice fairy type. And Lilligant the Tier 5 for 1. Watch out for this thing with Terra. Lyra Electabuzz still scoreless here. Still building up some bucks. Excited to see how much they spend later. Kanto Kingler's also taking a week off after some big spending. And here we go back up to the Cincinnati Incineroar, grabbing 2 Tier 2s, the Glamora and Dondozo, some friends from their VGC days, in exchange for the Iron Leaves, of course, which would have to be dropped there too, to help make up a little bit of what they paid for the Dondozo. Newport Noctowls with the Tier 1 Reggie Alecki adding to their crew, along with the low kicks, of course, plus the Pyroar down in Tier 5. Don't sleep on the power and speed of this thing. Akron Agron's making off another couple big mons here. The Salamence for 6, Tier 1, and the Palisand Tier 4, adding on some really nice pieces there. Calgary Corviknight's getting the Colossal. Really nice little pickup there, essentially trading the Frostlass for this and a few Woot Bucks. So some interesting removal and hazard setup there. The Bouffalant, my Bouffalant getting a few different mons here, picking up the Tier 1 Slowking, the Tier 3 Hippowdon, and the Tier 5 Muck in exchange for a couple of Tier 5s that I picked up early, the Grumpig and Dragonair. A few different moves here, shaking things up at least a little bit. The Waterdeep Wobbuffets, Steve, made one transaction to the Armourouge for a single point for a Tier 2. Surely that must be the least amount that a Tier 2 went for this time around, right? What happened here in Week 3? What's the story of the auction?
The auction is getting less and less involved. We saw a lot of the teams skip out this week, and then a lot of the mons, therefore, were going for very cheap. I mean, we talked about it. These tier 5s, the Slowking, the Regieleki, the Salmons, going for 5, 5, and 6. An average of 5 1/3 points for a tier 1. Go back to week 1 and week 2 auctions where those were 20 and 12. The prices are just dropping. Now, I'm not sure how much of that is maybe this was a busy week. I know for myself, I was on a plane up until right before the auction ended, so maybe some people were busy and just couldn't do this week. But it certainly looks like prices are down, and therefore there's just a lot of Woopucks being added up in the banks, and we'll see what everyone does with them moving forward. The tier 2s really helped out by the Incineroar here, but still a whole lot cheaper, averaging 4 and 2/3, down from 12 and 9 in the previous 2 weeks. So again, cheaper. Same with the tier 3s, down from 7 to 4 average. The tier 4s are pretty consistent, from 4 down to 3 average, and the tier 1s and the tier 5s are about the same. But in general, just cheap things. Very little competition this week. A couple back and forths. Especially on the tier 1s, going Slowking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but nothing else. They're stopping at these such low values instead of going on as we kind of grown to expect from the early weeks. And maybe that was just in the early weeks, people spending too much money and they're not able to anymore. But even if you're down to 20 Woopucks, if you have a team member to trade off to replace it, you can at least threaten and make the other coaches pay more. Keep bidding on it, and hey, if you win it, depending on your team, I guess that could be bad, but it could be worth it still, and you get a fantastic replacement mod then. Another key thing is the number of mods that weren't picked up here. For this week, very notable is, again, there was a tier 2 that wasn't picked up, except unlike last time, this is Pawmot. It is just a lot more generally usable Pokemon. I kind of understand Gothitelle not being taken for the previous week, but Pawmot is just a good attacker, a great speed tier, like you mentioned with the Frostlass, and then just having the threat of Revival Blessing, all that packed into a single mon that anyone could have picked up for a single point, and no one went for it. That's just doesn't that don't make sense to me. Otherwise, at tier 3, Flamigo was passed up. Flying Stab is great. Flying is a pretty good combination. Again, getting that for a Woopuck could be very good. Tier 3 is also, of course, the hardest for everyone to fill up on. But this is the first one of those being passed up. A number of tier 4s were passed up, including Caparaja, Bombardier, and Beartic. And then the tier 5, Appleton, Tinkatuff, Sudowoodo, and Thwacky were passed up. Lots of mons getting passed up. I'm not sure if the auctions are going to keep looking like this. It's a little bit worrisome. I'm really excited to see what week 7 and 8 look like if this continues, where everyone's just sitting on 60 Wootbucks and it's spend them or lose them. Will be very exciting, but for now we're stuck here with these slowly decreasing amounts.
Yeah, I think Michael of the Burbs and I have been doing a decent bit of moving in and out of some of these auctions, right? If we kind of put 1 or 2 in, if we happen to get it, cool, great. It's not, a lot of these mods we picked up weren't necessarily part of the big master plans, which maybe feels to me like what's going on. A lot of people are saying, I'm going to go for this, and not really taking advantage of some of these interim options that you get for very cheap. Oh no, it may cost you 1 or 2 Woopucks to go get it, but if you get the signing bonus out of the way too, it really comes out to really not much of a difference at all. Kind of curious there too. We have a couple of really good weeks though coming up here too. Wonder if things will turn around, or like you said, if the week 7 and 8 will just be 60-point auctions potentially. Could happen. Wonder what will occur though, and we'll keep you up to date on those as things move along. With all these changes in mind, first we do have to backtrack here as we go over what happened in week 3. First, we have to catch up on week 2, because the Agrons in Incineroar squared off as we were recording last time, so here we are. Pretty quick match too. Agron's the ones getting on the board here with a 5-0 win. Double switch turn 1 was kind of fire, but that does not stop Urdakuno Galar from setting up Calm Mind and Agility before Terra Blast Water. Yeah, that was another Water Terra. That's the 6th from week 2. Annihilates Iron Nose, Iron Treads. Luckily for the Incineroar, Sash Gengar can take a hit and KO back. Crisis is averted. However, problem number 2, the Tauros Blaze can Trail Blaze to pick up the KO. Moltres survives the Stone Edge, but cannot KO back. So now what? Primeape is out trading bulk ups with each other, but the Incineroar got greedy with one too many. It goes down with Tauros at +2/+2. Wigglytuff down, Moltres down, and of course Iron Leaves down. This is so sad. Even the illegal Terra on Iron Leaves won't save Matt. The Agrons got their first win at the end of Week 2. And with that said, we can now move on to the Agrons Week 3 match, which took place before Week 2, but ended with the same result, a W for the Agrons. But boy, did the Kinglers make this one interesting. Only 2-0 over the Kanto Kinglers. Scarf Meow and Scarf Lando both U-turn. Pincurchin swaps into Zapdos, and then Lando in next on Rocks. Terra Ice Terra Blast from Pincurchin to take out Lando in one hit. Absolutely huge. Unlike the damage it gets back onto the Glass Trie before it goes down, Decidueye can defog the rocks, but then that goes down to Zapdos' Hurricane. Bascule in time, Wave Crash, over half to Cresselia, then over half to Glass Trie, then finishes that off. Very impressive from the small fish. Meowscarada does tank a Barraskewda hit and KOs Cresselia. Zapdos is in. Zap Cannon hits Tinkaton, absolutely fire, and finishes that off with Volt Switch. It's actually tied 3-3. Mabostiff grabs a KO on Bascule, and are we looking at the upset win? Jawlock does half to Salamence on Dragon Dance, but Salamence KOs for a Moxie boost. Barraskewda Aqua Jets, but that's not quite enough, even with the Life Orb chip. Zapdos goes down at the end too. Close match, but the Agrons do grab 2 wins since our last video. Next match, we knew this was going to be a banger, but wow, the Calgary Corviknight just keep winning in the same way, huh? 5-0 over a powerful Seattle Steamrollers team. Chad prioritizing Rocks, then Greg's Frostlass. He just sold over to Chad in with the light screen. A very interesting set there. Volcanion tanks up Scizor easily, and then KO's Girafarig easily too. Diancie is in, and Terra's Water, and a Calm Mind. But with Claude in, that's a swap out to Scizor. U-turn into Thundy, U-turn into Scizor to defog. Finally, Chad gets a play right here. Toxic onto the Thundurus, but Thundy hits hard with Psychic as Chad gets Rocks back up, and then sacks to Thundy. With that, Diancie is back in. Draining Kiss heals so much. Oh my goodness, Light Screen gonna help? What about another Calm Mind? Superpower from an Amber is only 28%, that's it. 43% at +2, but Diamond Storm boosts defense, and Draining Kiss keeps Diancie healthy. Diancie wins the exchange with 37% left. Frostlass into Destiny Bond, but Greg doesn't KO it. Diancie up to 70%. Cycles are Dracos, but another Calm Mind. Draining Kiss heals that back up to full. Well, that's about game. Toadscroll doing nothing, Volcania doing nothing, Diancie with 5 KOs. Just get Clodsire down, and the setup goes in. Sweet undefeated season from Greg is alive. Now on to the Incineroar second match recovery. Pair of winless teams trying to catch a break here in Week 3, and appears to be the week of setup, doesn't it? A couple of angry setup boys break through the Wooper Troopers to get the Incineroar their first win. Iron Treads out turn 1 into Glamora to get T-Spikes up on U-turn, with Moltres following up to break down Hatterene a bit. Iron Treads is in next, Corviknight in on EQ, which is nice, and gets a defog into the Defiant Primeape. Uh-oh, swap into Hatterene on bulk up, and Rage Fist is real. Down it goes. Wyvern's Draco Meteor, 57%. Down that goes. Delphox in next, and Psychic isn't super effective on the Terra Ghost, and Drain Punch helps out the Primeapes. Down that goes, till Tauros finally beats it down. Finally, the bulk up war. Tauros versus Dondozo, and yeah, that's a Dondozo who is unaware of the boost against 3 physical mons remaining. Trailblaze does a whole 5 damage to Dondozo, and Body Press is a 2-hit KO, so Dozo, yeah, that's down. Bravery Body Slam does 11, and down it goes, and Corviknight, well, Dondozo is inevitable. The added Tier 2s and Primeape put in the work to get the Incineroar on the board there. Next up, the Bouffalant and the Noctowls with first place on the line. You already know this was going to be good. I think this exceeded even most expectations. You can already see on screen that the Bouffalant were the end of the turn away from finally snapping the Noctowls' winning streak. Boy, was this match an absolute blast. Trust me, you need to go see Michael's review of one of the easiest Match of the Week selections we've ever seen. Get to it. Next up, another match we called out with one of us in it. The Wobbuffets out-dueling the Boulders to keep their perfect season alive as well. This one a 2-0 win. Turn 1, Azelf gets up Rocks and survives on Sash, only to blow up turn 2, and Armarouge survives on Sash. Go figure. Articuno can tank a hit, so it's into... Oh, no, my mistake. No, it doesn't. Not much bulk on that one, and Armarouge gets the roll. Rip the back-to-back Articuno Terra Water sweeps. What do you do about Armarouge at this point? With only 2 Terra candidates left and weak armor activated, it's going to be Venomoth going Terra Ground so as to not be weak to fire to finish off Armarouge. 2 3/4 mons to take down the first, and Inteleon KOs that too. Yeesh. Great Tusk in, Gamble Breast doesn't take Ice Spinner, yikes. And Amorous Therian is in, gets full parried by the tanky Kilowattrel and brought down to 12% before taking out the bird. Evla gets off a Rabbit Spin, then KOs Slowking with Crunch, but that was to confirm the lack of Sturdy, so Inteleon cleans up the last 2 with Snipe Shot. Still no crits, but I think Steve will take the W and a 3-0 start to the season. Told you there are a lot of matches coming here. Here we've got the Corviknight Clobberers facing a Mudkips team still searching for their first win. They made it close, but it's the Clobberers who get back on track with the 2-0 dub. Immediate T-Spikes from Dragalge and Electros and Heatran are trading damage, just that Heatran is a beast who will be out trading Eel. More like Hitran, am I right? Palafin able to transform on multiple double switches from these two. Leafeon chunked, but Sylveon Heatran will wall that up. Heavy Slam into a switch, unfortunate. That's cool tech, though. Heatran healed to full by Leafeon's wish. Palafin also near full 2 from Sylveon. I see what's going on here. We're trading wishes from the evolutions. Leafeon is, though, sacked, and Heatran is in on the Brute Bonnet with the nice Stomping Tantrum prediction. Very sweet. Staraptor in next, and Cleavor just goes down, but in return, Palafin does so much. It KOs from his 71%. Jeez. Dragalge in, drops a Draco on Slowbro in the follow-up KOs. That's pretty nice. Sylveon, Terra Poison, and Calm Mind up. Will this be enough to break through Taunt Heatran? Hyper Voice does 17. And it's no longer weak to Heavy Slam, plus Heatran is already low. Means, yes, Sylveon does do it. Decidueye into... Oh, no, it does not KO. Yikes, Sylveon lives and heals up most of its health. Oh boy. Brute Bonnet in, Raichu's T-Wave misses. That's fine. The second one also misses. Brute Bonnet KOs that. Chunks Dragalge 2 and outs in range of Palafin. That last Mon was never in real danger. Shame too, because with Raichu and Decidueye could have been close. Shout out to Sylveon and Brute Bonnet helping out the Clobberers back above 500. And finally, wrapping up this recap gauntlet, same as last match, a 1-1 team gets right against a 0-2 team. This one, the Route 1 Burbs toppling the Illyria Electabuzz, except this is the Sweep Week Mon who did it all, a 6-0 win. Abomasnow with the Aurora Veil out into Muck on the Florges, Calm Mind. Terra Steel to get the second for free, and then a third on Knockoff, 60%, jeez. Moonblast only does half thanks to the screen, and Florges goes down to Drain Punch. Doug Trio in next to set up rocks on Halucha coming in. Sword Stances on Ironhead, then Endure to get the Lychee Berry proc into CC, Acro the Typhlosion, CC the Chansey, CC the Hydreigon, Acro the Lilligant. That's all of them. No Sucker Punch or any priority will be the undoing of the Electabuzz. The Burst finally throwing off that monkey on their back, finally getting their first win on Dashtute on their third attempt. And that is what happened in Week 3. A lot of fun matches. This was a blast of a week. I think in other weeks there could have been multiple match of the week candidates, but as it is, one stands strong. So here's a look at our power rankings. Newport Noctoles, again, until proven otherwise, will be number 1, but boy, was it close. Seriously, gotta go check that out. We've got the Wobbuffets at 2. We're actually keeping the Bouffalant up there at number 3, and the Corviknight still at 4. We'll talk about that. You already know that. Route 1 Burbs hanging on there at number 5. Corviknight Clobberers up to number 6. Akron Agrons making their debut on the list at 7, and the Boulder Boulders are back here at number 8. Again, we don't want to spoil too much from this match, but Noctoles Bouffalant, literally half a turn away from being different. A couple different 50-50 plays there at the end that the Bouffalant ended up getting incorrect. Boy, was that fun, and that does lead to the Bouffalant actually staying ahead of an undefeated team. This was your call more than mine, Steve. What do you say?
So yeah, the 2, 3, and 4 we all agree are very close. The Wobbuffets, Bouffalant, and Corviknight. 2 undefeated teams having fantastic seasons, but aren't the Noctowls on their win streak continuing on from last season. And on the other side of that, the Bouffalant, who historically the strongest team, 2-1 with, as mentioned, that 0-1 also close loss to the Noctowls. Considering we've especially been saying the Noctowls are the top team until proven otherwise, being so close is basically a win. You know, that's just the scheduling of they were playing the Noctowls that week. So it came down to some historical preference, some, how the seasons are going. These teams can easily shake up week to week. As you'll see when we look at the schedule for week 4, I would certainly expect some shakeups to come. But they're all just very close, and I could see any of these teams inching ahead of the others in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I have a feeling we will find out a whole lot more here coming up, but I don't know how much more we need to see from the Wobbuffets and Corviknight, though, too. They are still undefeated, so at the very least, it looks like the top 4 are separating themselves a little bit. Do you have anything you want to say about your W over the Boulders, who are still on this list, as well as the Corviknight, who actually bumped the Steamrollers off of the list?
Yeah, I mean, both of us are doing well. Winning. The Corviknight have been winning a lot of matches very big. They've very much been a fan of setting up with some Terramons or just effective low tiers and running wild with them, and it's been working very well. The Wobbuffets have had some closer games, but both of them, picking up a win against what we have said ahead of time, where, the top 5 going in, The Wobbuffets over the Burbs, the Corver Knights over the Steamrollers. So both teams looking good, picking up some notable wins, so far undefeated, but we still got a lot of the season left to go, so lots of changing can occur.
Note the Calgary did make the playoffs just last season. If they're looking to be consistent, this is a really nice way to start that off. Next, we're going to jump into the rest of our 2-1 teams. Bouffalant up at 3, but otherwise, Route 1 Burbs, I think, separated themselves just a little bit. I think from the 6-7 here, we were both in pretty easy agreement about them sticking around here. 6-0 win. That's not too much else to say about that, yeah?
Yeah, 6-0 win. Another key thing is they have the win over the Steamrollers, which propels them up, assuming the Steamrollers are competent, as they typically are. So, Burbs at 5 seem to make sense. They got, I think, strongest record so far out of the other 2-1 teams.
Yeah, the Clobbers and Agrons beneath them do both pick up their second win this week. I have expressed that I have a little bit of misgivings about both of them. I think I'm a little concerned about both. Yes, they have winning records right now, but not sure if I'm super impressed with what I've seen so far. But hey, can't really knock for getting a couple of wins against a couple of at least pretty decent teams here in just the past couple weeks. Anything you want to add about the Clobbers and Agrons here at 6 and 7?
No, I mean, yeah, they're both doing solid. They both have a loss to the same Calgary Corver Knight team, but otherwise have picked up the other teams that are 1 and 2 or 0 and 3.
Looking for a chance to move up there. And that's all the teams up with an above 500 record. However, the Bulldors sneaking in at number 8 as our top 1 and 2 team. It just seems really unfortunate because everything else adds up to the Bulldors being a pretty good team here, Steve. They just have a couple of games against very good teams, the 1 and 2 that they lost, and actually still have a positive Pokemon differential thanks to their Big 6-0 and close losses to those top teams. Seemed relatively easy for me, yeah?
Yeah, as you mentioned, great, very easy. Strong performances, not as close as the Bouffalant and Noctowls game was, but 2-0s against both the Wobbuffets and the Noctowls, a strong win against a 0-3 team. So they look like the best 1 and 2 right now. Of course, only 3 games in, everything can and will change.
Yeah, and if we have this much confidence in the current top 5 teams on this list, the next 3 down, hey, just 1 or 2 games away, we still believe that you could make that jump up, and we'll see if they can here in the upcoming weeks, because that's going to do it for week 3. In week 4, I'm not sure if I see anything interesting here. I guess I'll put aside from the top, Steve, it's your Buffalo Bouffalant and my Waterdeep Wobbuffets there at the top. That seems like a pretty nice standout, don't you think?
Yeah, the teams we ranked 2 and 3, and wouldn't you look at it? The teams we ranked 1 and 4 is the Newport Noctowls and Calgary Corver Knight. We've been talking about it, how these going into this week, those 4 teams were kind of standing out above, and even now with the Bouffalant taking the 1 loss, we still think these teams are looking slightly above the 5 down, and now all these teams are playing against each other. It's going to be a great week for those matches, and will really help us define those top 4 spots for next week and moving forward.
And of course, we don't want to take away, there are a couple of other really sneaky good matches down there too. Right below that, the Burbs and Agrons are both on our list at 2 and 1. The winner of that going up to 3 and 1 would be a huge difference. Getting 3 wins in the first half of the season is a really nice big step towards playoffs and could help solidify one of them as a real contender. Especially if we can potentially see a little bit of the Agrons. Still waiting for them to get a big win over one of the top 5 teams there. The other interesting one, a couple teams not on our top 8 list right now, but Steamrollers and Incineroar, a couple of historically strong teams who made strong showings in the playoffs just last season as well. And they're both floundering a little bit at 1 and 2. One of them's going to start 1 and 3. That seems like a big deal, especially if you can get to 2 and 2 for the winner there. Really helps to jumpstart their comeback here within the season. That seems like a very significant game too. Just those two maybe a little bit overshadowed there by some potential playoff matchups there at the top. As you said, it's already playoff format, 1 and 4, 2 and 3. Ooh, it is a good time to be a Wooper Club League fan here going into week 4. That's going to do it from us. Thank you for watching and listening. Thank you to Steve for joining me as always. Week 4, you already know, we're going to have some amazing shakeups. We're looking for a great Thursday of games, and we'll see you later.